Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. In the last video, I showed you all how to draw this floor plan of a studio. In this video, let's learn how to draw it in section. If you have missed out on that video, you can find a link to that in the top right corner of this video, right here. We ended the last video drawing the section line. Now, for ease of drawing, all I'm going to do is I'm going to change the position and direction of the section line. So I've realized to draw this plan better, I can just move this section line over to this window, and I'm just going to mirror this using MI. And let's move this text down here. I feel this is a better place to cut a section just because it'll be easier to understand all the wall projections from this end. So let's get started. So if we want to draw a section, we want to make sure that we draw all our projection lines from the section plane. So I'm going to use the line command, L, enter, and I'm going to draw all the lines that cut through the walls. Like that. Press escape. I can press spacebar or enter once so that I can select the line command once again. Next, what we are going to do is we are going to draw all the elevation lines that we will see in that section. Now, instead of drawing lines, let's try something known as construction lines. And to get that, we're going to press XL on our keyboard and press enter. And then we are going to press V for vertical and enter. Now you see, we have created this line which seems to be infinite in its extents. I'm just going to change my layer to medium, and I cannot change it, so I'm going to press escape and I'm going to try it again. This time it has already changed my layer, so let's try by putting the construction line command in, press V, enter. Okay, now it seems to work. So I'm going to use this to trace all the elevation lines in my section. Yeah, that's it. Now I'm going to draw the levels in my section. So I'll arbitrarily just draw a line to indicate the floor layer, and I'll change that layer to thick. And let's size it in within our section. And now I can go ahead and just trim it. Now if you see, I'm trying to use fillet, but it has a radius active. You can see this edge is getting curved. So let's change that. Press escape, press F, enter for fillet, R, enter, and you put a radius of 0. Now let's try it. That's better. Now we are going to keep the height of our bathroom at 2.8 meters. So let's offset this flow line by 2800 mm. And now let's add a thickness to that roof slab of 200 mm. Let's offset it down like that. We can go ahead and fillet this also. Now let's draw a window over here. Now our exterior wall thicknesses we can find out by pressing DI for distance and tracing these points is 270 mm. So let's draw it from this point here because that seems to be the external part of this partition wall. So O, enter, 270 mm, like that. Let's trim this line and let's trim these lines. TR, select the cutting plane and then enter, and then the lines to be trimmed. Let's trim this line as well, and we don't need this line. Now we can draw a window over here of 500 millimeters. So O for offset, enter, 500, offset this line. And let's go ahead and draw the slab above our living space as well. So let's offset that by 200 millimeters. Now we can just fillet these lines. Trim, double enter. And we can go ahead and delete this line. Fillet this line, trim, double enter this. Let's draw the ground floor slab. Let's put in 200 and let's trim this as well. Let's go ahead and draw the foundation of our section. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to extend these lines and I'm going to offset the floor slab by 1 meter, and I'm going to fillet these lines. Let's extend this line, EX, enter, the line to be extended. Now let's go ahead and trim. There. You can go ahead and trim this line as well. Now let's draw this window. So we are going to draw that using a rectangle tool. Now let's draw all the elevation elements of the wall in our section. So our bathroom window is going to be at a height of 1.5 sill level. So let's offset this line by 1.5. Let's trim it. And we won't need these lines, so let's delete it. And the lintel of the window is going to be the bottom of the roof slab. So I'm just going to trim the rest. Now let's draw the windows of the living space. Now if you see this section cuts through the window here, so let's place the sill of this window. We'll keep it at 1 meter. Let's extend this by EX and then double enter. And now let's just go ahead and trim this. Now we want to make sure the lintel of our window is the same as the lintel in our bathroom window. So let's offset, and this time instead of offsetting it by a certain distance, because we don't know this distance, let's press T for through select our line, and now we can just go ahead and click on this point and it will offset our line by that distance. Now let's go ahead and trim this. Now we can just draw lines over as projections from here, and we can fillet these lines. There. You can see our section is taking shape nicely. Let's get into the details now. So for this window, let's draw the frame and the glass pane. So I'm just going to copy over this window section. I'm going to paste it here and here. Now I'm just going to invert this using MI for mirror and delete the source. I'm going to draw the frame in elevation, so I'm going to press O, enter, and then 60 for the thickness of the frame. Fillet these lines and extend them. We can go ahead and copy this glass material, extend this polyline to this end. Let's do the same for this window here. This window does not have any elevation projections like this, so we just have to copy over the section of the window. So I'm just going to copy the top and bottom frame and the glass material, and I'm just going to copy this and place it here. Now to shrink this window, I'm just going to use the stretch command. So I'm going to select these elements and I'm going to deselect this line of the wall, select this point and drag it and keep it here. So we have just replicated our window very easily here. I'm just going to move this rectangle down in the draw order. So DR, enter, and I'm going to select back so that this line of the slab is more visible. Now let's go ahead and change this layer as well. Now let's draw the furniture projections in our section. So I'm going to copy this table. I'm going to place it here. If you remember, the sill of our window is 1 meter. So I'm going to use that as a reference. And I'm going to hover on this point of the table. And I'm going to align it with this point. Now let's go ahead and draw the table. I'm going to draw a line here, move it down by 5 centimeters. Now I can just reshape this rectangle so we get the surface of our table. I think 1 meter is a little too high for the table, so let's move it down by 25 centimeters. Now let's just go ahead and draw the legs of this table, and I'm just going to copy this rectangle and I'm going to rotate it. Place it on the edge, move it in by 10 centimeters, and I'm going to stretch it. I can just go ahead and mirror it as well. So we have drawn our table. Let's go ahead and draw the bed. We want to keep the height of the top of the bed at 50 centimeters. So So let's put 500 and offset this line. Can place our rectangle to this point and delete it. Now let's first check what is the height of this point and here. It's 1.1 meters. So we want this to be around 30 centimeters. So let's shave off around 800 millimeters. I'm going to stretch it up by 800. There you go. We have a nice thick mattress. Now we need something for the base that this mattress is going to sit on. So let's just copy this rectangle here. Let's place it here and move it down. And we can stretch this, deselect this line by pressing Shift and selecting. Now I'm going to hover my point on this, trace it up, and use it as a reference so I can snap it to the extent of this bed. Now we can go ahead and copy the legs, and we can stretch this to this point, and we can mirror this as well. Yeah. You can go ahead and copy the pillow as well. This distance is around 70, so we want it to be around 15, so let's stretch this by around 550. Yeah. So we have drawn the table and we have drawn the bed, and if you see in the section, it's cutting through it. Let's add some room text. Now we already have the text over here in plan, so for the first example I'm just going to copy it and I'm going to place it here. In the next example I'm just going to create that text from scratch. Now I can change the color and size and layer of this text. Instead, I'm just going to match properties and copy it over from this text. Now I'm just going to move it in line with this. Select this text and move it in place. Like that. Okay, now let's go ahead and hatch our walls. For that we can press H on our keyboard. As you'll see, hatch option shows up first in the drop down. Press enter, and now it's asking us to pick the region. So I'm going to select this polyline and I'm going to select over here and I'm going to press enter. AutoCAD will ask you if I want to specify the pattern or the scale, and for now I'm just going to say to automatically adjust the scale. Now after that we can select the hatch and we can see we are in the hatch editor over in the ribbon panel. So here I can just select the pattern that I want. I am actually happy with this pattern, however I'm just going to try and change the scale of it. I'm going to put 100 and see. It's still very small, so let's turn that to 1000. And I feel it's a little too big, so let's go halfway and make it 500. There. You can press escape. Now we need to create a layer for this hatch, and we do. we have a layer for hatch. So let's just go ahead and select the hatch. Now by default it's going to open in the hatch editor once again. So let's go to the home tab. Under the layer drop down, let's select hatch, and it has changed its layer. So you can press escape and you can see. Now another just a cool feature is if you select the hatch, you can set the origin of the pattern. So let's just see how that works. Select the origin, and if I select this point over here, you can see that the hatch pattern sort of, the lines originate from that point. So sometimes when you want your pattern to be a little precise to your construction lines, you can just use that. I guess we should detail out this window over here a bit. Let's go and check what is the width of the frame is 60. So let's offset the lines of this window opening by 60. Let's fillet all of them and match properties for this line. And let's also hatch the glazing on these windows. So hatch, I'm going to select these regions, press enter, select them, and we can actually select the same hatch and change the pattern to say 2000. Let's change it to 3000. Much better. Now let's also show the ground level. First let's indicate the line indicating the ground level. Let's move this down by a step. So let's say 150 millimeters. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to draw a rectangle from this point to here, and I'm going to just hatch the earth. So I can use that rectangle to create a region here. Press escape. Let's select the hatch again, and let's change that in the drop down. Let's select this one, change the scale to say 20. I think I'll change it to 50. Better. Now we can just go ahead and delete this rectangle, and the hatch still remains even though the hatch was created in that region. You can go ahead and trim this ground line, press enter. Let's put this two lines in the thick layer because that is the ground that we are cutting through, and let's put this hatch in the hatch layer. Much better. I'll just change the hatch a bit by selecting it and just moving its control points a little. Now let's go ahead and dimension this drawing. So I'm going to select dimension and select linear. And what are the crucial dimensions that I want to make a note of? First are the height of these windowsills. So I'm going to pick this point, the flow, and I'm going to drag the dimension out. As you can see, it's not very clear because the scale is very low. So let's change that in properties. I'm going to change the arrows to an architectural tick. going to change the size for now. I'll just change it to 50. Let's make it 100. That's more visible. Next, let's go down to the text height. Let's change it to 100, like that. Then let's go over to under primary units, precision, let's turn that to 0. Much better. Let's put this in the appropriate layer. There. Let's do the same for this cell. I can actually just go ahead and copy this dimension, this point over here. Let's mirror this. Delete the object. And I can just move this point over here. Let's also dimension the height of these spaces. I'm going to copy this, paste it there, and stretch this over. Copy this once again, paste it here, and adjust. Now, because my dimension text is interfering with the room text, I'm just going to drag this down. Maybe I can drag it down to the same point as this. There. I'm going to drag this out a little more so it doesn't interfere with this bed drawing that we have created. And there you go. The final thing is, let's add and specify which section we have drawn here. So I'm going to select this text. I'm going to disable auto mode so I can move it freely. Place it here, and let's change this text and name it section A. Escape. And there you have it. We have drawn a section of this studio plan that we had drawn earlier. So if you like this video, go ahead and hit the like button, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.